we have really two categories. There are non-consensual sex, which is bad, and then we have consensual sex, which we think is always good. That's what the culture says. That's what a lot of us have, most of us, it seems like that's the idea that we have. It's like, as long as they're consenting adults who choose to do this thing, then it must be okay. But the reality is that there's a lot of bad sex. There's a lot of immoral sex. There's a lot of disordered, gross, harmful sex that is nonetheless consensual. Consent has become is increasingly means nothing because we've expanded it so much. And we've turned it into this complicated equation where nobody really knows when consent is happening. And even if a person does something willingly and is like, yes, let's do this. But even that might not be consent because we've turned consent into this super confusing calculus.
The Search TV unearthed this video from a few years ago. I'm not sure exactly when dated, but talking about Matt Walsh here talking about consent. How confusing, how damn confusing is this whole consent thing? Jesus, what is consent? We've expanded it so much from things that I don't want people to do in their own lives that now I'm concerned about the things that someone says, no, I don't want that. I can't figure it out. Well, maybe you should listen to the people that you talk to, or you should probably start talking to people before you commit some kind of act and then wonder why that they complained about it later. Either way it goes, he was ranting on and on and on. This is probably specifically as the Me Too movement was gaining some more steam, and actually people had the courage because they saw there's community around them and how many other people were affected by it. That was something Matt Walsh couldn't really handle. So he was ranting as he went on in his car. And he brought up Harvey Weinstein, of course, and also how one particular person who accused him of his rapes and everything that he was doing and sexual assaults, that she was just chasing some clout. It's the same story you've heard before, but this continues to dive into his confusion about what consent is. Let's let him keep talking.
Actresses willingly have sexual relationships with powerful men, sometimes for years. Asia Argento herself, I believe, she was in a sexual relationship ongoing with Harvey Weinstein for like 5 years. She kept going back and engaging in this, in this stuff with him. And they do this for the sake of movie roles. And then you also have the accusations against Asia Argento, where a guy at 17, legal age, in almost every state in the union, willingly has sex with this, 100-pound Italian model, making no effort to leave the room or leave the situation. Then he comes back, blackmails her, demands money for it, and gets paid, and now he says he was traumatized by his willing participation in sex acts with a woman when he was a few months away from his 18th birthday. Does that belong in the same category as a woman or a child who gets pinned down and raped by a sex predator?
He's just trying to figure it out. He can't understand why someone who sleeps with a minor and finds out later that they came back and said, hey, you slept with a minor. It's so confusing. He can't figure it out. He has no idea how people continue to go down this road of real thought process behind this. Consent, non-consent, what is it? What is it really about? There's one more, because look, even he's talking about even a Catholic priest, a cardinal that was finally busted for decades of abuse. He has some defense for him as well.
And in the Catholic Church, you have some cases where, like cases involving Cardinal McCarrick. You hear about Cardinal McCarrick and the controversy surrounding him. Now, there are accusations that he molested children. So, that's in that category. But then a lot of the accusations you hear about McCarrick and also with other, some of these other things as well. These are, in some cases, he's having sex with seminarians. These are grown men who he allegedly lured into bed and then had sex with. But as a grown man, if you let another man lure you into bed and then you willingly, with no resistance, engage in sex acts with him, does that belong in the same category as the 12-year-old kids who are raped by men twice their size? I think clearly it doesn't. All the cases I mentioned, they're all immoral, bad, gross, harmful. But they're not all rape.
Confused. I think the other part about this that he conveniently left off with that Cardinal situation was Cardinal Theodore McCormick abused minors in seminaries for decades. He's just talking about seminaries. Grown men, there's a position of power. This cardinal who's now 91, 92 years old did it for decades. And he's not saying, I didn't do it. Just saying, Jackson. I know I left a lot at your feet here. What are your thoughts?
Well, first, there's nothing confusing about consensual sex. Like, first, we got to get that out the way. Especially just typically, which I'm sure he doesn't have much experience with, when a woman wants to sleep with you, they typically are all over you. They want it. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of what you have to gauge. It's not, anything less than a woman being like really about it and really on it. She might not. You shouldn't try to coax her and convince her. Like, well, she said no, but like, so again, there's nothing confusing. There's just not. And then just when it comes to Matt Walsh, he's just a guy that you can tell doesn't really connect with much of anybody well. Because for him to be ranting about something like this really is just weird. He openly calls himself a theocratic fascist. Clearly he has a very poor sex and dating life and, just in social relationships in general. This guy, everything I've ever seen from him, he's just a really strange guy, and obviously he views women as kind of like little kids or children that can't really think and don't really have any type of real autonomy over themselves, because if he didn't think that, then he wouldn't sit around pondering stuff like this.
Or trying to defend these types of acts. Yeah. Let's keep real, by the way. He's talking about, these women date Harvey Weinstein for 5 years and he knows she kept coming back. Let's keep real. Harvey Weinstein knows what he looks like. He knows whether or not his personality is attractive enough and all that. And he also realizes the position of power that he had over so many people. Do you think he didn't realize that? Do you think that wasn't a part of his thought process and the way that he went about many of these accusations that are coming forward, the countless accusations that have come forward about the things that he did? You think he doesn't get that? But we gonna gloss over all that and say these women just wanted him. Okay, and he even said it for movie roles. So what was he offering as he was raping people? What was he saying he was gonna be given? Or here, come meet me so we can talk about a movie role, and then it turned into something else. None of that is talked about because that would blow up this ridiculous argument.